Hey creative friends, it's Gwen and I'm back today with another scrapbooking process video. Today's share is part of Pink Fresh Friday and I'll be using the Noteworthy collection. I'm scrapbooking this photo of my daughter and I do have a plan. I really wanted to use that little envelope there. I've got a whole pack of those and I haven't used any of them, so I thought get it onto the page nice and quickly and I'll work the design around that element. I'm working with this cut file from Cut to You. It is called Lots of Leaves. There's a link in the description below and it has two places where you could put photos, and what I'm going to do is actually just have the one photo and then use the envelope to cover up that second photo position. I've cut the design out nice and large so that it fills the entire background of my page, and I am a little bit short on time today, so I'm not going to back it. I'm just going to leave it as a white on white element. I really love the texture that it adds and I like the lightness of the white on white, and it's really just going to form sort of the base of the layout, and it's going to help me not have to decide on a lot of things. I'm just going to go with the flow of the cut file and let it dictate the layout for the page. So the colors for the layout, I have decided to go with the deeper purple kind of mauve tone. I love that it's got a bit of an autumn feel to it. And then the envelope also has that pretty soft baby pink. So we're going to run with those two colors. I purposefully printed my photo in black and white to give me some options. And I know that I'm going to need to add something to it. I very, very rarely will make a monochromatic layout, so I want something that's going to contrast those colors, and I do end up going with the baby blue and a touch of this really pretty deep green. So as I work through the bits and pieces in the collection, I'm going to keep those things in mind. Anything that I see that say that bright yellow, it's automatically going to be excluded because that's not the color scheme that I'm going with, and that actually helps me. Excluding items helps me create faster, and I think it helps me make better pages. So I am going to start to work on the embellishment clusters. I've got my main elements being the envelope and my photo, and the way that the cut file is designed is it's very vertical. So the elements run down sort of the center of the page. So I am going to continue with that flow, and I'm going to create one embellishment cluster that's sort of towards the top left-hand corner, and I'm going to have that flow down towards the right-hand corner. The main struggle that I have here with this layout and like creating those clusters is actually going to be balance. I want to balance out the element on the top left above the photo there with whatever I put here on the right hand side of the photo. There were also quite a few elements that I liked that were in the right colors, but they were rectangular in shape, and to me it just ended up looking very blocky. And even though it's funny, I was surprised that that happened because the leaves are very soft and delicate and flowy. So I thought I could get away with adding a few more rectangular elements, but yeah, it just ended up being super, super blocky. So I ran with the circles. They really complement the softness of the leaves, and there was quite a few in this collection, so I had a lot to choose from, which is always good. I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for that perfect balance of supply. So I never want too many because then I feel overwhelmed and indecision sort of kicks in. But then you don't want so few that you're limiting your creative choices. So it's a real sweet spot. Now, I haven't talked too much about embellishment clusters of late, so I do want to chat you through a little bit of that for this layout. So I will often think of my clusters in layers, as if I'm making layers in a cake. And for this page, I'm working from the bottom of the cake to the top. I don't always do it that way, but for this layout, that's what I did. So I made my bottom layers being the background of the page, my cut file, and my photos. And for my middle layers, I'm looking at the larger embellishment pieces In particular for this page, it's those floral elements. It's the leaf on the right and it's that large floral die cut above my photo. Now, I don't want the layers in the cake to feel separated. I want there to be a flow between them. So I want pieces that will like join the layers together. So you'll see the camera there. It's mid-sized, but it's slightly smaller than the leaves that I've just placed. So I'm working largest to smallest, and then I count the smaller embellishments. So even maybe this green circle that I'm placing now, and then sort of like enamel dots, maybe some smaller puffy stickers, those kind of things. Those things I count as the top layer and the icing on the cake. So what I'm really focusing on is, going through, as I go through the layers of the cake, I am making the choices for embellishments smaller as I go towards the top. And I'm thinking about the mixing and matching of the shapes and the colors. I hope that makes sense. It's probably a funny analogy when we're talking about scrapbooking, but that's just how I imagine it. I'm building the layout in the same way that a baker would build a cake, layer by layer. The other thing that I'm really, really aware of when I'm building out my embellishment clusters is that outside edge of the cluster. So if you were to draw a line with a pencil around the outer edge of all the elements, you want that line to be very interesting. I don't want things to line up exactly. Unless the only exception to that is maybe a grid design, if you were doing a very geometrical grid design layout. But for most of my pages, I want that line to be super interesting and detailed. I don't want anything to line up perfectly. I want pretty little edges sticking out. It's those little details that make looking at the layout interesting. I love the puffy stickers in this collection. They're much larger than the ones that Maggie Holmes does, and I really like the size of them. I found this round one here. It doesn't stay there, but it does end up on the page. It says, "Oh, happy day," and it matches perfectly with the envelope, the tones in the envelope. And I also use one that says Little Moments, and there's another one that I'm going to place under the camera. This one here. It's a rectangle, but it's small and it kind of flows really beautifully. So happy with that. And now I'm going to be placing my title. I did not have any Pink Fresh Studio puffy alphas to match. I had white ones, but I didn't want to do white on white on white. So I have technically cheated and I'm using these thickers from my stash. They're really pretty. They're white, but then they have this really pale pink line on them. They're really sweet. Now, there is nothing in my background to help me line these up to make sure that they're nice and straight. So I am going to use my T-square ruler to do that. And these are quite old. I have had these kicking around for ages. So I am going to add just the littlest bit of a liquid adhesive behind them just to make sure that they stay stuck forever. I live in Queensland, Australia, and our weather here is very humid and very hot for most of the year. So nothing tends to keep it stick unless I add a liquid adhesive. So I'm going to do that and see, I'm making sure it's super, super straight. I've gone with Miss 13. This photo was taken on her 13th birthday a couple of years back. And I've documented a bunch of these photos, so really this layout was just for fun. I know we are memory keepers and we are making pages to document memories, but for me it's about 50-50. So I actually really just like the process of making a layout and playing with all the embellishments and the pretty things. The fact that I'm also documenting my family is a plus. I'd love to know, are you like mainly about the documenting or are you more about the enjoyment of the craft? Because if I had to choose one way or another, I think I would actually lean towards more of the enjoyment of the craft. And I know that could be controversial. So let me know which side of that line you're on. Things are getting serious because I am gluing stuff down Really happy with how it's all coming together, and I'm kind of at that point in the embellishing where I'm looking for the smaller elements. So we're up to icing and we're up to decorations. It's at this point that I'm also really paying attention to the balance of colors, because now's the time where I can make adjustments. If it's looking a little bit heavy in, say, green in one section, I can add some other green elements around the layout to balance that out. I'm also paying attention to the flow of the page. I notice here in a minute that that element on the left of the photo is sort of standing out by itself. See how there's nothing supporting it? So I do adjust that and pop it up on the top edge of the photo. And I just feel like the eye then travels sort of down the center of the layout from the top left to the bottom right. When it was placed on the left-hand side of the photo, it kind of broke that flow. I'm going to add this little blue element at the top there because there wasn't anything blue up there. It was looking very pinky purple and I wanted to balance that out. So I have added that there. Oh, that little green leaf on the top left, that's actually another puffy sticker. So it's a really good size. They're really good size, those stickers. It's time to add the sprinkles to our cake in the form of enamel dots. I like to add these in clusters of 2 or 3, and I also add them in a way that supports the embellishment clusters that I've built and also continues on that flow of the eye and how I want it to travel around the page. This is also the last chance I'll get to balance out the colors on the page. Here's a look at some close-up images. You can see the white on white of the cut file, all of the lovely paper layers in the clusters, and then the addition of the puffy stickers and those enamel dots for texture. If you like the way that I scrapbook or the way that I chat about the way that I scrapbook, I'd love it if you give this video a thumbs up. If you are a big Pink Fresh Studio fan, be sure to check out this video right here. It's more Pink Fresh Friday inspiration, and I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, bye!